that. Like, even if you think it's really wrong, something is really wrong, allowing yourself to explore why it would be right, it can be very moving. Thanks, it's a good question. Yeah.
Any specific input in the character as you look at a script and say, Callie would react this way, and then you get to take the character in a different direction the way it shows versus what the writers and producers wanted?
Well, I was always allowed to say it. Whether the writers and the producers made those changes or not is a whole different story. There were some things I'm trying to remember during the third season that I thought were weird. Like, I thought that the character was getting a little weak and whiny, and I wanted to be able to show another side, even if it wasn't changing those scenes. At least, show the forces of the struggle, so we weren't always on one side. But the thing is, the writers and the producers are thinking about so many other things. They have in their minds the whole story, the whole world of Battlestar Galactica. And they have the budget to think about, and they have the network to think about. So at the end of the day, I mean, they have a better sense, for better or for worse, of what the show needs. So I think Battlestar is unique in that they do take in actors' input. Like I said, we would discuss things around the table read, and actors were constantly fighting for changes that they thought needed to be there. And a lot of times they would change, and other times they just wouldn't. So it kind of just depended on all the other elements that contributed to it.
And two questions for you. Quick one is the revelation that Hot Dog was the baby daddy. Do you remember having any real memorable scenes with both of those?
No, the only memorable times I remember with Bodhi are in the boxing ring, but that was just offset when we were goofing around and it was the soccer finals, and I remember we were all hanging out, but other than that.
There we go. And the other one was, what did you think of 1 year later on New Capricorn?
Science and superheroes.
The question is, what did I think of the whole New Capricorn arc? When I read that script, it was really funny. I just flipped through it because I didn't want to read the whole script, and I just wanted to find out how much I was in it. And I flipped through it, and it goes from me being beat up, to a pulp where, like, Aaron or Galen almost kills me. My jaw's wired shut. I can't see out of one eye. It's horrible. And then all of a sudden, I'm pregnant. And I was like, okay. Either I miss. Actually, what I did first, because I'm so impulsive, I took to Aaron, and I'm like, what are they thinking? What's going on? And I thought that, like, out of that, somehow he got me pregnant, and I didn't like it. And then I went back and did my homework and read the whole script and realized that there was a huge chunk of time that was missing that actually played a very important part in understanding how that happened. Personally, at the time, I thought it was a little bit of a cheap thing because, it was towards the end, and at that point, we never knew if it would be on for another season. So I was like, oh, so they're going to end it like that 1 year later, and then we're on a planet, and that's it? And I was a little bit sad about that. But then once I found out that there would be more, and kind of the whole, also when I found out the stories that would be unfolding on New Capricorn, I thought that was really exciting. So despite the time jump, which I think as a tool or a gimmick alone is often misused, I think that how they did it was actually very well done.
How you doing? If you could be any character on the show other than Callie,
I've been asked this before, like to check in with how I feel about it right now. And right now, my answer is different. I feel like I would want to be president. I feel like the thing is that I have such a bias because you can only consider the characters through the actors that play them, right? So to try and imagine what character I would be, it's like, oh, well, I want to be Katie Sackhoff, or I want to be Mary McDonald. It's like how they do their characters would be very different than how I would. So it's hard to break those apart to really evaluate which one I would want to be. But I think being Starbuck would be pretty cool, obviously. So that Starbuck and then the president. Those are like the two sides of my struggle in life. The badass and the noble. It's true.
Were there any like big medical jokers on the set, or these sort of peers, and have you guys discussed these for a few days?
Yeah, I was telling everyone. Sorry, I don't know if you weren't here for the earlier one, but you should go and Google like the rap party video or the blooper reel because we have so many, and I swear it became almost a contest of who could get into the blooper reel the most by doing ridiculous things on set. It became just like disruptive. I think the crew maybe lost their patience a few times at the end of the day, and they're like, yeah, we want to go home to our families. And we're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do it this way. I laughed in the middle. So we were all like joking around a lot of the time and took it seriously when it was necessary.
I just wanted to know if you ever had a favorite line from a character tried to say.
A favorite line that my character got to say. I like when I don't know, shut up your motherfucker. It's always a classic, right? Right? Shut up your motherfucker. I thought that was such a nice moment, how she was so angry and so upset, and just like in my experience of it, like she just couldn't see any other option to go on anymore, and then they just started laughing. It's like, it's so human. You know, we get so worked up about life and all these things going on until we get to a point where we realize we're just human and we're just here, and that's all we have. And I think that the shut up your mother cracker kind of like embodied that experience. Good question. I'll race you.
You win.
My question is, how did you feel about the people in life?
Oh, how do I feel about Callie staying with Galen even though he beat her up? Well, like I said, at the very beginning I was very shocked and very upset, and I didn't want it to happen at all. But once I learned really what had happened and gone on, I think it's reality. I think it explores a side of ourselves that we don't necessarily like to look at. You know, we like to judge and say, oh, I would never do that. I would never be with someone who did that to me, or that's awful. But it happens. So somehow there is a part of us that feels that we need something greater, that is no longer important. And so I thought it explored a really
what's going on here?
dark yet interesting and provocative part of our experience and how we relate with one another. You know, it wasn't